Welcome in, everyone, to the Cherokee County Endzone podcast. I am your host, Will Cooper, along with my co-host, longtime broadcast partner. You know him, you love him. He is the handsomest man in all of North Georgia and the most educated on high school football. What a pleasure it is so that you will be able to hear his voice this evening, this afternoon, whenever you are listening to the show. It is Art Mosley. Art, how are you doing, my friend?
Man, Will, I'm on cloud nine after that introduction. I mean, our buddy Dave Garner's going to hear that and he think, wait a minute, I'm the most handsome man in North Central Georgia, and you're shaking
It's
your
just not
head,
true.
and you know what? I might be like in the top 10, whatever, only because you're not here. So I do appreciate it.
That wasn't true when I was there.
Easy. Hey, look, I probably had like I'll be on Wednesday and Friday night. I've got a face for radio, so I'll be right where I belong. But I'm happy to be back. I know we had a great big long podcast a couple of weeks ago. We were able to get that done. Grateful again to be back for, I think we said year 6 of our podcast combination. So fantastic. Our podcast is old enough to go to kindergarten at this point. So I know we've had a name change on it. So we're growing and moving, and we've got some things we're going to dive into a little bit more this season. Certainly we'll preview some things this week, namely the Cooper Predictor. We'll talk about that. We'll go back to something that we all love to debate, our power rankings. And I know that for those coaches that listen to the show, I know that we will have some that question some of my rankings early in the season. But man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all the smoke and all the criticism that Cherokee County has to offer.
Yeah, and it will certainly come. Probably more for you than me, but that's fine. And Art, you did mention you're going to be on the airwaves on Wednesday and Friday. Why don't you tell the good people what you're going to be doing on those 2 days?
Yeah, working again with 101.1 The Pulse and our good friend Dave Garner, Jackson Wright also there, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention our friends Tucker Green and Jess Walker, who primarily work on the Pig 93.7 out of Jasper there. But we've got high school football covered this week, so between the 2 stations, we'll be broadcasting 4 games. So Wednesday night, we'll be over at the Corky Kell at Kell High School to broadcast the McEacher and Kell battle. And then Thursday, I will not be in Dalton on Thursday, but Gordon Central travels to Southeast Whitfield, and Dave and Jackson and Jess will be up there on the Pulse doing that game Thursday night. And then we'll turn around Friday and head over to Cherokee to take in the inaugural game at the brand new Tommy Baker's field over there off of MLK Junior Boulevard, 1500 MLK Junior Boulevard, and just to the, I guess that's north of downtown Canton, or as you're looking just to the north and east of the old campus. But we're looking forward to that. So we'll be at Cherokee and Lassiter. And of course, Jess and Tucker will be down in Ackworth as the Pickens Dragons take on the North Cobb Christian. I believe they're the Warriors, but don't quote me on that.
I think they're the Eagles.
You're right. They are the Eagles. I should have known that. It's the North Cobb Warriors. I'm getting my mascots mixed up, but it's early. I'm still getting in regular season form, Coop.
Hey, it's all good. That's what these tests are for, as they say. So, well, Art, if you are ready, my friend, let's jump right into it, and we'll move in alphabetical order. And you already mentioned the game, so it's really just a perfect tie-in. It's almost like I planned this, which I did not, but it does lead us right into Cherokee versus Lassiter as we open the brand new Tommy Baker Field at the new high school, as you mentioned. So, Art, I'll turn it over to you here to start, buddy. You've been doing the prep work, getting ready for that game on Friday. What's your first impressions from this?
Well, I'm going to start with the visiting team, the Lassiter Trojans. Coop, this is a team that went 5-5 last year. I feel like that's Coach Sean Tome's best season since he's been at Lassiter. He had some guys moving in the right direction. One of the things they'll look to do is replace their senior quarterback, Mitch Seaman, who really powered that offense. They had a couple of all-region wide receivers that come back, Collins Price and Dalton Price. I believe they're brothers, 1 and 2 in receiving last year. And then you've got Bryce Kitchrow, who will be, I believe, a junior this year, but he's another receiver that comes back. So you've got some weapons. maybe most impressive is their young running back, Drew McGee, a dual sport athlete. He plays running back, a little bit of linebacker. They've got him listed as 6'2", 205, so a powerful athlete, just a freshman last season, and racked up, over 400 yards rushing, 9 TDs, led the team in rushing. There are some weapons for that Lassiter offense. The question is, will they be able to gel with their new quarterback, be able to gel? And then defensively, they lost a lot of their production on defense. They did return Caden Bloom. He's also a guy that splits time at running back and defensive back. But I just don't know how seasoned this defense will be. So I think the big question for Coach Tome and the Lassiter Trojans will be how soon they can get that quarterback in. I think your offense can maybe mask some issues for your defense at times, and that will be a key for me to Lassiter. And again, I think this is a team, we talked about this years ago when River Ridge was kind of on the come up. And Lassiter's not a team they've had some success in their history. Let's not kid ourselves here. But this is a team that I think is poised to catch somebody this year if they can get that quarterback figured out. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're the surprise team in Region 6A. Now we look at a Cherokee team who, again, has similar. I think the theme for this week will be similar. We've got a lot of teams with a lot of talent to replace and a lot of new names, at the skill position or and especially on defense here. But the Warriors return their quarterback in Zach Parker, contrasting them to Lassiter. They don't return any of the production at wide receiver. So that is going to be a big question mark. How fast can guys like Chris Turner, Graham Langan, Zayden Barron, Aiden Jackson, Luke Nolan, who played tight end, and Luke is, he's a defensive end as well. He's the team's leading returning receiver from a year ago. So how fast can Zach Parker develop rapport with these guys? The other issue, and Parker threw for 1,259 yards last season, splitting time. So he'll have the entire offense to himself. The one thing I love watching film on Zach Parker is he's got a live arm. When he's, flushed out of the pocket, he's pretty accurate. And I think that will go a long way. We will see how well this Cherokee offensive line can gel. And then defensively, the big news is you return Trenton Barnett at linebacker. He was a team's leading tackler a year ago, but who else is around him? I mean, I know we're looking like a guy like Zion Bob, maybe, who's poised for a breakout season at linebacker as well. So you might have a tandem there, but there's a lot of question marks I think Coach Holly has to fill. And I skipped over running back. You lose a guy like Mr. Hamilton, who rushed, who's taken his over 1,300 yards or whatever on to Ferris State, I believe, and now Torrey Hearn has some big shoes to fill, and it will likely be running back by committee for the Warriors. But if we're just looking at breaking down the ball game, I think we're in for maybe a sloppy game to start. It's week 1. This one counts. There will be some jitters, I suspect, on both teams for players who haven't had the reps at those key positions. And I say key positions, Coop, that's any position along the lines of scrimmage, especially. So the team that, and the team that can eliminate the mistakes will likely come out on top. And, if Zach Parker can connect with guys like Turner and Langan and Barron and Jackson early, I think you might take some pressure off the run game, but they will have to run the football. I think both of these teams will have to run the football, and the defenses will have to stop the run and make each other one-dimensional here.
Yeah, all great points, and you covered it just about as comprehensively as we all have come to expect from you. But there is one area that I think is also worth an extra mention, and that's Cherokee's offensive line. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Dorian Stewart graduates, and then Nation Farmer transfers out. So that's your 2 starting tackles from last year that are gone, that maybe you expected one of them to stick around. So, that you mentioned the running game, and I'm right there with you, whether it be Torrey Hearn or one of the other guys, they're going to have to run the football successfully. And, it's a game of unknowns, but it's also a game of we thinks. Mm-hmm. We think that Cherokee should be in a better position because returning Zach Parker and knowing that this offseason you handed him the keys and said, this is your ship. You run this thing now. It's not like last year where there's a quarterback battle going on and Sawyer Ray was kind of the, heir apparent, as much as we've used that term with Cherokee quarterbacks. Now it's you, young man. And I think that helps going through an off season of preparation, to know that you can just focus on being the best you. You don't have to worry about if the other guy does things or is capable of doing things you aren't. And you mentioned it on the defensive side. My biggest concern, and it's going to be the area that's hardest for Lassiter to attack, is their secondary. We've talked for years about these secondary pieces the Cherokees had, and a lot of those guys have graduated. And now with this new look defense that they're bringing in, aside from guys like Trenton Barnett that you mentioned earlier, we're talking about losing guys really on both sides of the ball, but a big deal when it comes to guys like Jack Rubin, who I know played a lot of wide receiver. We also saw him flip around a little bit, a time or two in the secondary. We're also talking about the safety that I can't remember his name at the moment.
Elijah Fute or Elijah Foote. Yeah. Yep.
You got it. Thank you. Those are guys that we kind of got accustomed to being in that secondary. Well, that's an area you might be concerned about, but as you mentioned, Lassiter breaking in a new quarterback, probably not going to air it out 30, 40 times a game in the opening game. And I do think, pressure is an element of this. We've talked about the PSR ad nauseum at this point, but every game matters. We've talked about the fact that this is the opening game for Cherokee, not only on their new campus, but also in a new stadium. And the community is going to be out there big time to not only see the new facilities, take in that first game to say you were part of it, but the radio station is going to be there. There's a lot of things kind of riding on this for a lot of different teams. So I look at it and I say, I feel like Cherokee has an edge, even in the psychology, the non-statistical world, just by saying that they are a team that returns a quarterback, coaching staff stability, moving into a new stadium. They should be pumped up, and they'll have the community on their back. So I feel like this is a game that I give the edge to Cherokee to, regardless of what the numbers say.
Yeah, Coop, I'm right there with you. I think if Lassiter can come out and punch Cherokee in the mouth and take the crowd out of it, and again, new stadium, we don't know how loud that will be. I know we're talking about high school here, but we do know that there's about a plus or minus 3-point swing in games for home field advantage, and that's at every level in football, and high school included. So I think this game is going to be close. I don't know if Lassiter's defense will be able to contain Zach Parker, and even when he gets out of the pocket, again, he's a young man who keeps his head down the field. I think it's a nip and tuck battle, and I don't think it's the cleanest game, but I do think Cherokee wins. I like the Warriors by 4 at home, and I'm sure my friends over at Lassiter, Coach Sheehan, will probably have something to say about that. But those are my thoughts, and I think this Lassiter team, I want to give them a little bit of respect. I think it's a team that's going to be pretty dangerous in that region as they go forward. But this week, I like the Warriors.
Yeah, we do too at the Cooper Predictor. The model has them winning by 5. But more importantly than that, and this is the first disclaimer that I will give, and I will give it for every team. The first note, the score is great. I'm going to tell you how much the model thinks they'll win by. Please hear me when I say the more important number is the second number I'm about to say, and that is Cherokee has a 66% win chance. That is the important number. I know people are going to get caught up, but I'm just telling you. 66% win chance. And to your point, by the way, just to prove you right, you're right about home field advantage. In the 12,000 games that we have predicted in the GHSA when we did our search, home field advantages were 2.8 points in Georgia high school football. So even if you think it loud noise doesn't make a difference, and I've heard high school coaches from, Texas, Alabama, Georgia all say different things, but it is worth 2.8 points statistically. So there you go. You nailed it, buddy.
Well, you know what, Coop, when we talk and you tell me things, I actually write them down and listen. So that was one of the nuggets that you gave me actually in the preseason. But yeah, those are our thoughts on Cherokee. Looking forward to be out at Tommy Baker and taking in all the festivities. Again, Dave Garner will have the call. I will be analyst, and Jackson Wright will also be there in the booth with us as our second analyst. Man, we can't wait. And if I can go ahead and plug again 101.1 The Pulse and The Porch, Darren Sutherland and Asa Jones will be on site broadcasting pregame as well out at Tommy Baker Field. And so looking forward to that. Let's move on, Coop. Let's keep it moving. We all know I'm a Cherokee homer, but let's move on to the Creekview Grizzlies as they will travel to Cumming, downtown Cumming, or just north of downtown Cumming, and take on the Forsyth Central Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are coming off a 1-9 season a year ago. They've added a few new coaches to the staff. They're trying to revamp some things. I tell you, one of the things for Forsyth Central that, again, goes along with our theme is they're going to be replacing a lot of production at quarterback, the production at running back, production at wide receiver, on and on and on and on. Their strength, I believe, lies within their line of scrimmage. Tatum Checketts is an all-region offensive lineman. He's coming back for them. Ethan White, one of the top underclassmen linemen in Forsyth County, I believe, at 6'1", 290. You've got Hurley Louis on the defensive line at 6'3", 230. And then probably their best athlete is Franklin or Franco Manka. We kind of see him on the defensive side and offense at receiver, but a big target at 6'3", 218. We just don't know who's going to be throwing the football for the Forsyth Central Bulldogs. And so I think that's something that they're going to have to pick up early, often, or quick, fast, and in a hurry if they want to be successful. Alternatively, we look at Creekview. And again, this is a team that's also coming off a 1-9 season. So you lose all of your production and you've got to find it quick. Who knows what happens? Creekview, alternatively, we know the pieces they lost. Starting quarterback, your top wide receiver, maybe your best running back, who didn't even play running back last season, in Mason Munn. And they've also got some pieces to replace on their front seven as well. But Creekview, we've come to expect that they're strong in the secondary, and this year is no exception when we talk about guys like J.D. Russell and Hayden Hansen. I think Ben Thoreau also back there in the secondary is a guy that Coach Williams has mentioned before. And maybe one of the strongest things is they have a quarterback who started on Friday nights. And I think that might be one of the big differences for this ball game. We're talking about Landon Barnes. He threw 42 passes. He had 331 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. We believe that Creekview is not a team that's going to go out there and throw the ball 30 times a night. They'd rather turn around and hand the ball off 30 times in a ball game. That's just, I think Coach Williams just wants to impose his offensive line on other teams and wear you down. Carson Lott, they return their leading rusher. He had over 660 yards last season. They did lose Travis Vines to transfer. He's at Pickens now. But you've got, we mentioned Lott. He's also an effective receiver out of the backfield. He caught 6 passes last season. Zach Reese is a name that Coach Williams did mention to us. He caught 7 passes last season. He'll be called on as well to catch some passes for the Grizzlies. I think the strength in this football team, though, will be their offensive line. You've got guys like Ryan Sullivan. You got a young player like Collifer, and his first name's escaping me, but he's kind of the next big thing. I think 6'5", 270, 280, young offensive lineman. And yet this is a strength of Creekview, and I think they're going to be a little bit too much for Forsyth Central. Now, I don't think Creekview wins by 27 points. I think it's a little bit closer than that. I like the Grizzlies by 11, call it 28-17, 21-10, but I'm taking Creekview on the road. You can take your road dog and shove it here. Grizzlies win this one outright.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This is the model's most confident pick of the week in Cherokee County. So I agree with a lot of your points. So to your point, when we saw them in the scrimmage against Cherokee, they ran the ball incredibly well. Carson Lott had a couple of runs that were, one of them untouched, one of them through contact, great on both runs. But this offensive line looks to be back to a semblance of a Creekview offensive line that we're used to seeing. Again, you mentioned Landon Barnes. This is a guy that has seen Friday Night Lights. He's been out there, seen the game at full speed. I think that helps tremendously. Their secondary returns so many pieces from last year, and they looked really good against Cherokee. Again, Zach Parker, had a hard time finding open receivers. Not through any fault of his own necessarily. It was just they weren't open. I think that they're a team that's very difficult to know what to do. You're pretty much going to have to agree with Creekview that you're going to stand in the box and it's going to be like a boxing match and we're going to run the ball at each other 40 times and see who comes out on top. this is a matchup that Creekview will. On top of that as well, Forsyth Central is a team that just it's kind of hard to find any bright spots. You mentioned losing production off a 1-9 team. How much worse can it get? They play one of the easiest strength of schedules in the entire state. After Creekview, they're going to play Pope, which obviously last season did not have a good year. They're going to play Chattahoochee, who struggled mightily over the last few years. Even once they get into their region, a team like West Forsyth that has historically been, not historically, but over the last 5 years, has been a perennial pain for teams in the 6A, 7A bracket, depending on what classification we're working with. That team is going to be a lot different than it has been recently. Coach Savela retiring from there. To me, this is a opportunity for Creekview to make their name known outside of our talking circle. Because if they go out there and perform as we kind of expect them to, then this is the opportunity to do that. All that being said, everything we've talked about is based off last season. Has no bearing on this season. So, as we're giving you the rat poison, telling you how confident we are in Creekview, doesn't change the fact we have not seen these two teams line up to face each other in 2026. What we did see from Creekview in the scrimmage, I was thoroughly impressed. But different teams, not a scrimmage. You actually start game planning for the opposition, could be different. So I'll leave it at that disclaimer, but we're fairly confident just looking at the number side.
So you've told us your confidence, your certainty. Do you have a number? Did I miss that?
Yeah. So we have the model has Creekview winning by 24, and it's a 91% win probability for the Grizzlies, which is very high. And again, I'll say this again: focus on the win probability, not on the number, not on the margin. 24 is great. I'm giving that to you as fans. 91% win probability is the number.
So we really, and I think we're both in line with that. Again, the Grizzlies making the trip over probably about 20, well, on a school bus might be more like 30 minutes, but quick 20-minute trip over to Cumming down Highway 20, depending on how the construction is on Friday evening. Make sure you get out. We know historically the Grizzlies fans travel well and they're loud and proud. So ought to be a great night for football over in Cumming, Georgia. Coop, let's move on to the River Ridge Knights, a team that is not afraid to call us to the carpet and kind of use us as bulletin board material. They take on the Sprayberry Yellow Jackets, a very familiar foe. This will be the 9th meeting all time. Last year as region foes, this year just as opponents. But Sprayberry won that game 28-10 last year, but a very different looking Sprayberry team. Lost a ton to graduation. You and I talked about it in our pre-show prep here. Don't bring back a ton of production, had a couple of transfers move out. And so this is a team, we know Sprayberry is a team that plays with a lot of grit, but I think nobody is going to be disappointed about not having to chase Jaden Duckett around the field from one side to the other. But that was one of the most elusive football players I think we've seen. And they'll have to deal with him at the Citadel and their opponents, but a different Sprayberry team, Coop. Maybe DJ Wilson takes over at quarterback for the Jackets. They do return a guy like Nathan Cooey on the offensive line, all region performer. We looked at a guy like Saki Menafield, who's really a linebacker, but also can flip around and play running back at 6 foot 215. And then you might have, Jarkeus Troutman also at running back. They might mix him in as well. They do have a big target at tight end, Marcus Gray. But I just I'm not quite sure how sold I am on DJ Wilson early in the season at quarterback. I know this will be a gritty Sprayberry team. We don't have to worry about that. Meanwhile, again, we turn take a look at River Ridge and where they are solid at, I feel like, is a skill position. You return your starting quarterback and Hunter Lockerman over 1,000 yards passing. Micah Pugh, it looks to be in line to get the bulk of the carries at running back. We know he might flip over and play some linebacker or on defense as well. Andrew Rowe in the secondary. He's also a versatile receiver, a great special teams guy. Luke Thompson at tight end, and he also flips over and plays linebacker. Those are some of the guys I think that can step up. My question mark for River Ridge, and we mentioned this, alluded to this on our preseason show with Coach Collins, is that, hey man, a lot of these names we got used to calling at River Ridge, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and that nasty linebacking crew that was always flying around. They are no longer there, and they're going to have to plug and play a lot of bodies. We know that offensive line is very young. He's starting a lot of young guys, and I think maybe a few freshmen are in the mix there as well. So that will be interesting to see if that line can hold up. I like the fact that you have an experienced quarterback and experienced running back, regardless of that line. Man, even if they can just lean on somebody, I think Micah Pugh can find some holes there for the River Ridge Knights. I think this game is going to be like the others. It's going to be what I would consider an ugly kind of slugfest ball game. It's early in the season. We know this, and this is typical for any game. The team that makes the fewest mistakes wins the ball game. I like the experience at quarterback. I like River Ridge by 3. If I don't have a confidence percentage, but this might be my least confident game I'm picking this week.
Yeah, it's tough. Here's the thing. When I look at the model on this, it's all based on last season's numbers. Again, when we model things, we don't model off of hype or hope or transfers or what we think you're going to be. It's got to be proven in the math. And from what I see, I look at Sprayberry's numbers, for example, looking at their offensive number to start. They were plus 14.7 in our metric on offense, which is a complicated number, but I'll simplify it. It put them as the 30th best offense last year.
In the state, right? Right.
In the entire state. Yeah, 30th best out of the 432 GHSA teams. They were the 30th best. Defensively, they were above average as well. They were 135th, which is top 69th percentile, 70th percentile for defenses. I don't have confidence that they're going to meet either of those metrics because a lot of that offense production was Jaden Duckett rolling around, boot scooting boogieing, and then getting out of the pocket and finding 5-star Jordan Edmonds, on a post route for an 80-yard touchdown bomb. That's not in the playbook this year, unless they have some guys that we don't know about. But it doesn't appear to be. Same thing defensively. That secondary last year was unbelievable. Last couple of years, it's been really good. Mm-hmm. That's not going to be the same way. So when you look at River Ridge, who has a returning quarterback in Hunter Lockerman, you see them with a lot of big targets in their wide receiving core from their scrimmage. I mean, they look to be very big. I think they could be a team that could cause a lot of mismatches. The question goes back to the offensive line for me. How long can you give Hunter Lockerman / those receivers to get downfield and take off the head of this Sprayberry defense? Now, on the flip side of that, Sprayberry's offense to me is going to be very questionable. Again, a lot of not in a bad way, just question marks. They may get out there and throw up 50.
Right.
We'll find out. It also wouldn't shock me if we get to the end of it and they put up 14. Because it's just too many variables there. River Ridge's defense is the same way, though. I don't know how much we can glean from game number 1 with these two teams, because if Sprayberry only puts up 14, okay, is that a sign that River Ridge's defense is elite again, or is that a sign more that Sprayberry's offense has struggles? Counterpoint, if Sprayberry puts up 42, is that a sign that River Ridge's defense needs to improve, or is Sprayberry going to average, again, 14.7 above the state, again, the 30th best offense again this year? That remains to be seen for me. So a lot of unknowns. This is one that as you look at the model, you're kind of like, I don't feel good about this pick because I don't know that I trust either team here necessarily. My gut tells me to go more with River Ridge just because I trust Coach Collins. I trust that Hunter Lockerman's back. I trust Micah Pugh. I trust Andrew Rowe. I like what River Ridge has returning, but the model doesn't care what I think. So it's going to give Sprayberry the pick by 6. It gives Sprayberry a 66% win probability. Again, hear me. The margin is not the number. The win probability is the number. Sprayberry, 66% win probability.
All right. We got it locked in. So Coach Collins, you heard it. It's not Coop picking against you. It's just the model. We promise. So use that for what you will, River Ridge. And we wish you best of luck as the Jackets, travel over to historic Jim Frazier Stadium off of Sandy Plains Road on Friday night. Drive safe over there to all of our River Ridge Night listeners.
You meant the Knights. You said the Jackets. You meant the Knights. It's okay.
That's exactly right. Whatever Will said.
That should just be your default answer, by the way. Whatever
Will said. That could be very dangerous.
Yes, it could.
Next up, we're going to go over to talk about the Sequoia Chiefs, and they're going to be traveling. They're going to be on the road as well at Denmark High School over in. I know they have an Alpharetta address, but it's Forsyth County in that classification 7A school. Coop, they've played the last couple of seasons, and I want to tell you, we thought as good as Sequoia has been the last couple of seasons, they have only beaten Denmark by 3 points in each of those games, and it's been I would say a nail biter, or it wouldn't. Sequoia didn't close those games out till late. I don't know if that's the case this season. Now let's talk about returning quarterbacks. Denmark, unlike the other teams we mentioned, does return their starter. Evan Jones threw for 2,195 yards a year ago, 16 touchdowns, but also did have 11 interceptions. The problem is he's lost his top 6 receivers from a year ago to graduation. So big shoes to fill in that role. But again, with an experienced quarterback, I think he can kind of nurse those receivers along. I think Jacob Jurich is a guy that they're looking to help replace to become one of the top targets. So I think he's had a pretty good offseason. London Ruckert, a guy who they can plug in at running back. He's really a linebacker, 6'1", 210. Linebacker is his first position, but also will be available at running back as they've also graduated. They'll be looking for production out of that position as well. He's the leading returning rusher, I think 381 yards, 2 touchdowns. And also he's the leading returning tackler, 68 total tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, and also 2 interceptions. So a very integral part of this Denmark Dane football team. We know that Elijah Askew will be somebody at the defensive end linebacker spot that will look to provide pressure on this Sequoia offense. But man, I tell you, we turn over to Sequoia and we say, oh my gosh, they lost Colby Martin and they lost Will Rzecki and they lost Brooks Darling and they lost, the names go on and on. Alex, thank you, Big Alex Brewer. So many seniors, and that senior class has been so productive. But then they come back and they've got Drew Williams, who's coming back at linebacker. They benefit from a couple of transfers. A guy, we all have come to expect big things out of. Trace Washington moves over from Woodstock. He'll be in a Sequoia jersey. Danny Palmisi moves over from Woodstock. He'll be in a Sequoia jersey. Robert Alstein Jr. Moves over from Creekview. And we're not here to bash transfers, and but Sequoia has been the benefit of some players that have moved in that will help them out. Nolan Shakar, and we talked to Coach Teeter about this in the preseason. His ledger says 7 for 7 for 84 yards and no interceptions last season. Now I know that's not a large body of work, but he will take over at quarterback. He's a senior. He's bided his time. And I think that's respectable over there. At running back, you're looking at Braden Wilbur and Joseph Lucente to kind of take over. I think you might see Trace Washington back there as well. I would be shocked if Coach Jackmine doesn't do whatever dealing he has to do to get the ball to Trace Washington and split that time with Coach Buddy in the defense. But I think Sequoia's secondary is certainly, with Asa Goins and then Paul Misi coming over, that shores up that secondary. You got a great linebacking core. And then we'll have to see what can we expect of that defensive line, as most of those guys have graduated. You talk about guys we used to call all the time, Matthew Matz, one of the top defensive linemen for Sequoia historically. So I'm curious to see how good they were at beating. We saw the score of their scrimmage. I didn't watch the scrimmage, but they beat Wheeler, by an ungodly amount. Is Wheeler struggling that much, or is Sequoia that good and that dangerous? That remains to be seen. But I hesitate to take the Chiefs by a big number in week 1 because of the history of the series. And I think that does play a part. I think Denmark will be ready. It's a team that's been to the playoffs the last couple of years. They were 7-4 last year. I think they'll play the Chiefs tough at home, but I think Sequoia wins this by 9.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask you a question here and see if it's surprise, or you give me a guess. If you had to guess Denmark's defensive rating, say top 10, top 25, top 50, top 100, top 200, whatever, where do you think their defense would be preseason?
Coming into this season, or based off last season?
So based off last season, so it's the analytics we use. So based off last
I
season,
would say top 50.
yeah, 46th. They had the 46th best defense last year. I was shocked when I saw that because Denmark to me has always seemed kind of more like a balanced team. But their offense was just barely above average last year. They finished 198th. So all that to say, though, is that I kind of agree with you. Sequoia is a team that in our rankings, we've had them in the top 10 and 6A consistently. I know a lot of people look at that and kind of scoff and these guys that vibe pick, for lack of a better term. You excluded, but guys that vibe pick, that are busy telling you how smart they are with their vaunted eye test. They're the ones that keep putting Sequoia out. Now, they may not know that they added Trace Washington and Danny Palmese and that, with some things, they've added some guys and they returned some pieces. But I'm not ready to move them out of the top 10, and I'm certainly not ready to be cautious with them as they move into this game. With that being said, we do have Sequoia winning by 17. This is all based on last season, though. So if there's any regression from that mean, then we'll have to see how that plays out. Again, the margin's not important. The number I'm about to tell you is important. This is the win percentage. It's calibrated. They have a 81% expected win percentage. It is the second most confident game that the model picks in Cherokee County this week. So we feel pretty good about Sequoia. Their offense and defense were both top 50 last year in the state. Their offense was top 25 in the state. Even if they take a significant step back, which they may, where does that put them? Top 75? What kind of production do you lose with not having Will Rejecki, who's going to be replaced by Trace Washington? After we talked to Coach over there, and he was telling us, we're going to play Trace Washington at running back, much to the chagrin of Coach Buddy, but we're going to play him at running back a little bit. Again, Nolan Shakur is obviously not as experienced, but with that being said, we don't know how much worse or better this team can be with him under center as opposed to Colby Martin. The offensive line, as you mentioned, Alex Bruger leaving, that's a big deal. Brody Craig returning provides some really strong stability to that front. So this is a team that kind of is, as I try and pick and choose, I'm just not ready to be cautious about them. They've proven they can win for the last 3 years. I keep thinking of that song, Once Bitten, Twice Shy, because how many times have we gone into a preseason and said this is going to be the year that we don't know? And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. The model certainly does. So again, Sequoia by 17, 81% win probability.
All right. It's right up there, just nipping on the heels of that Creekview Forsyth Central game. But Cooper has a lot of confidence in the Chiefs, and they haven't given us any reason not to be confident in them over the last several seasons. So I would expect Sequoia to come out with a victory. Again, I'm just a little shy about that game one and them breaking in new players, but we believe it's more than a touchdown, that's for sure. So we will see. We both believe Sequoia comes out on top. Coop, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize Leif Hansen. If this game comes down to special teams, I think Sequoia has the best kicker punter in the region, in the county, maybe North Georgia. So that's a weapon they have as well. And it's come to, I would say Sequoia special teams has come to be pretty special. They've had a few pretty solid kickers over the season, and Hansen is certainly fitting the mold there. We're going to move on to our final preview of the week. Etowah travels across the street to take on the Woodstock Wolverines in the Battle of Town Lake. Coop, this game went into overtime last season. A shocker in our eyes, maybe not to the Etowah Eagles, but certainly a shocker in our eyes. I think we both had Woodstock winning this game a year ago. Some new faces. We got a new coach over at Woodstock, so a developing story. We talked about some of the transfers that happened. They've got a Division I quarterback now that's signed, sealed, delivered, so he doesn't have to think about recruiting this football season against their crosstown rivals. Who, in all honesty, Coop, I think these two teams are very similar, in at least offensively, and what they bring to the table. We're going to start off with Etowah, and we had a chance to talk earlier with Coach Vavra. We're going to go ahead and cut into that interview. We want to get his thoughts before we talk about give our take on the Etowah Eagles. So let's go to that interview with Coach Vavra.
And joining us now on the podcast is the head coach of the Etowah Eagles, Coach Vavra. Coach, thank you for being back with us.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on as always.
All right, Coach. So you guys will be taking the trip over to Woodstock this week, another iteration of the Battle of Town Lake. Walk us through what you saw from your team in the scrimmage last Friday against Hillgrove, since we haven't seen you since then. From our standpoint, they looked really good.
Yeah, it was a good night. We did a lot of good things on both sides of the ball, especially with our ones in there in the first half. You know, you feel like we should have at least probably been tied going into halftime, or at least potentially had the lead if we did some things a little bit better on special teams. So we've got some things to clean up. We know that. That's what a scrimmage is for. But we're looking forward to getting better this week. We had a great first day of practice this morning, and in preparation for Woodstock. But yeah, I was really proud of our kids. I thought our kids competed hard. I thought they played hard. Um, we need to match probably physicality a little bit more on both sides of the ball. I was hoping to maybe be a little bit more consistent in the run game, but Hillgrove's defensive line is pretty stout, and so we knew that. And and then offensive line for them was pretty good too. I thought their lines of scrimmage were really good, but I thought we held our own, and we made some plays offensively, made some big plays. Zeke and Walker Hughes had some big plays in the passing game. I thought Kingston Caesar looked really good. Excuse me, at running back. And then defensively, we got enough stops, where I felt pretty good about it against a pretty quality opponent. So we're looking to build on that and kind of take that over into Woodstock week.
Coach, one thing, we're going to praise your run game from the scrimmage, but you told us you got a lot to work on. So I don't know if this question's gonna be apropos here. We did think we thought you looked good running the football. One thing that we had noticed from the last couple of years at Etowah, the quarterback ended up was a leading rusher. Are you guys looking to get away from that, or without revealing too much of your game plan this season, will you be leaning much more on Mr. Caesar, or is that to be seen on Friday night?
I think it's to be seen on Friday night a little bit, but yeah, we're going to lean on Caesar more. We're going to lean on Caesar more. We're going to lean on Shamari and McLaurin more. Lean on Jaden Christopher a little bit more, who really got his first taste of carrying the ball and you know, got some developing to do there, but he's explosive with the ball in his hand. He's very fast and very twitchy. But Kingston is very explosive and a little more experienced than the other two. And so, yeah, I think there's, like I said, we'll hold it for Friday nights, but there's a good chance we're going to rely on him a lot more.
Coach, one thing that, speaking of the running game, that also stood out was the offensive line to me. Looked really sharp in some of those passing reps and things like that. Can you walk us through some of those guys that maybe we don't know their names yet, but we will by the end of the season? Some guys that jump out to you there?
Sure. Yeah, I thought our pass pro was really, really, pretty good. We gave up a few sacks, but a couple of things. It might have been, or had some younger guys in here and there. Or Hillgrove had, a good scheme dialed up or a good blitz dialed up, and we couldn't really protect them, but brought more than we could protect. But Easton Densmore is a returning player. He's played for a couple of years now and started on the offensive line. He started last year for a good portion of the season, and I think he started as a sophomore even for a few games. Jonas Jesus is our center. He's playing center right now. He can play a few other positions, but he's just a junior. He's never played varsity football, but the kid's got a lot of upside. He's a big, strong, physical kid. He's very smart. Let's see, Tyson Thompson kind of playing in a little bit of a reserve role, but is kind of the fifth man, sixth man, rotating in there at a number of positions. Cooper Wilson is a kid that played for us last year, started a number of games at center when we moved Preston out to left tackle. He has really come into his own. He's a kid that kind of struggled in the offseason a little bit after the season and needed to see a little bit more buy-in from him, but the kid is 1,000% bought in, and he's doing some really, really good things. He's the leader of our offensive line right now, He's a physical kid. He's got a lot of grit in him, and he's a great leader for us right now. He's really taken on that role and done a great job with it. So proud of him, and I think he's going to be a kid who's going to have a big season for us. Jaden Hargett is a sophomore for us who was playing on the defensive line, and he's gonna play a lot for us. He's a really strong kid. He's like a 500-pound squatter and a 300-pound bencher as a sophomore. He's a young pup, and he's gonna be really, really good for us. Thomas Pulsifer is playing right tackle for us, and he's doing a great job. He was a pup last year, played mostly JV, and he's gotten so much stronger in the weight room, a lot more dependable, and kind of like Cooper is really taking on a little bit of a leadership role, not scared to call guys out. So those are most of the guys you're going to be seeing on that in that those 5 linemen for us. They're doing a great job for us.
Once again, talking to Coach Brett Vavra, the head coach of the Etowah Eagles. Coach, we looked at your defense. If we compare your spring scrimmage to your fall scrimmage, one, you guys look a lot bigger or taller, rather. But one of the things we noticed is you guys are maybe a little undersized at some positions, but you're flying around and so active. Is that by design or scheme, or are you just hey, this is what we got, and this is what how we're going to play, and how's that defense coming along to your standard early in the season?
Yeah, we're coming along nicely. Back to your question, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's just the standard that we've set at practice and the expectations that we have as a defensive staff. I probably shouldn't publicize this, but I'm calling the defense this year, so it's a little bit of different for me. It's something I haven't done in 10 years. And in the spring scrimmage, I felt very, very just uncomfortable, which was good for me. I needed that because it's been a long time. I felt a lot more comfortable on Friday night against Hillgrove. We're doing some things on defense to keep it really simple for our guys and allow them to play fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been the biggest change for us probably. But, there's some things that we're doing schematically that allow us to, run and be very, very aggressive. But at the same token, keeping it really simple. And so I'm excited. It's kind of rejuvenated me as a coach. I feel it's been a lot of fun getting back and calling it. But, proud of our kids. I thought we flew around decently on Friday night against Hillgrove. I think we can probably be a little bit more physical. We're still young and obviously have a long ways to go, but I was excited and I was encouraged with the things that I saw against Hillgrove on Friday night. We have a little bit more work to do in our run fits and knowing our responsibility a little bit. We've kind of morphed and we've done a few different things. I don't want to get into it too much and give too much away, but it's not going to be a secret of Woodstock. They've got the film. They're going to look at it. They'll know. But I think the changes have been good for us, and have allowed our kids to play a little faster and without thinking. So it's been good.
And Coach, speaking of the defense, the one area that I thought did incredibly well in the scrimmage was the secondary. There were a few of those kind of throw up balls that, some younger defensive backs may get lost in space. Your guys looked really well coached, able to find the ball, find the sideline. Is there anybody in that secondary? Because I know it's an area that has a lot of transition from the past couple of years that stood out to you early in the season so far.
Yeah, I thought all of our guys did a pretty good job. We have to get better at tackling, and that's one thing that I kind of ripped our guys on Friday about in the secondary. I didn't think we tackled really well. We were a little out of control at times, didn't take great angles, but I thought coverage-wise we were pretty good. Now Hillgrove had a couple guys open that, a little bit more accurate on the throw. They'd probably get us. Well, that's part of the game. They gotta throw and catch it too, and that's what we tell our guys. But yeah, I thought, Benji Agyarko had 2 pass breakups. He's a junior corner for us, hadn't played any varsity football. Charlie DeWitt is a kid we talked about kind of maybe in the last segment. He played for us a lot as a freshman. I thought he did a decent job back there at corner. Those 2 guys are probably start. Jaden Christopher is going to get some time at corner, who played running back for us on Friday. Walker Hughes did some good things. He plays really, really fast. He's starting to kind of settle into that safety position, whereas last year he was playing more corner. And so he was needed to learn safety, and we spent a lot of time in the summer to get him kind of caught up and acclimated to that. I think he's gonna have a big year for us back there. And then Ben Gebhardt is a returning starter, the only returning starter we have in the secondary, really, is playing safety for us as well. And he did some good things on Friday as well. He's coming off that shoulder surgery he had in the offseason. Brandon Stewart's a kid that's going to play a lot for us in the secondary. He's, if I would say, it's going to be Walker, Ben, Gebhardt, Benji, and Charlie, but Brandon Stewart's going to play a lot at the safety position, and he did some good things on Friday as well. Had a forced fumble, had a tackle or two, didn't give up any catches. So thought that was good. Dylan Johnson, who played some outside backer for us last year, he's going to maybe continue in that role here and there, but we've moved him back to safety for now, and he's still kind of figuring that out. But he's a very athletic kid. He's 6'1" and can jump out of the gym and pretty fast. And he gave up a corner route on Friday night, but it was a matter of just hadn't had a ton of reps there in the last couple of weeks. So we'll get him caught up, and I think he's going to be pretty productive for us too. So yeah, I was really pleased with our secondaries. As inexperienced as we are, we're very, I don't want to say deep yet because we got a lot of growing to do, but we have a lot of guys that can, we think, help us back there at some course at some point of the season.
Coach, we've done all the preliminary talking here. Let's talk about what everybody wants to hear. We want to get your thoughts on your opponent, and I'll frame this question by saying, offensively, I feel like it's an opponent that looks very similar to your offense, at least in terms of experienced quarterback. You got a talented a running back who's coming into his own back there. They've got a receiver that returns that has caught plenty of passes. So in terms of that, I feel like it's very similar to your offense. But how do you prepare for Woodstock? What problems do they present, and how do the Etowah Eagles come out of the Wolverine, the woodshed, or the den, or whatever they call it over there? How do you come out with a win on Friday night?
Yeah, it's going to take a lot from our kids and our coaching staff. They're very multiple. I agree with you, Art. They're very similar to us. The quarterback and you look at it like they got an Army commit quarterback, we got a Navy commit quarterback, we got an Army commit receiver. I don't know if their receivers are committed anywhere, but they're pretty talented as well. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but number 11 is a really good player. He's somebody we got to know where he's lined up at all times. They're pretty big up front. They do a good job in the run game. Like I said, they're very versatile. They're in multiple. And Coach Pearce, who I've known for a long time, does a great job. He's going to put his kids in position to make plays and give their offense a chance at success. So, whether it's them in the quarterback run game with Graham and having to defend him, which is always a challenge. I've always said that as a coordinator. I love when I just have to defend 10 guys. When I got to defend 11, that makes it more difficult. I mean, everybody knows that. It's tough. And the style that kid plays, where he's able to pull the ball and run it, not only like make you miss, but he's going to run through you too, because he's a big, strong, physical kid. That's always a challenge. So yeah, we've got our hands full, and we're aware of that. We've watched the film, and I think our offense does a good job though, because they are kind of similar. They have done a good job all summer of just preparing us, and we've been seeing that all year and every day for the last several months, going back to spring. So we're excited about the challenge. We know it's going to be a challenge, but we're fired up about it. And I think if our kids can line up, we can be disciplined in the secondary with our eyes, and we can read our keys, and we can go fit. Yeah, I think we got a chance.
Well, Coach, it should be a good one. As Will and I talk about, we believe this is the best rivalry in the county, and I know Cherokee Sequoia, I know Cherokee Etowah is the longest in the county, but I don't know if there's anything closer to a cross the street, crosstown rival than Woodstock and Etowah when they take on each other. And we're excited to be covering this game, and we wish you the best of luck on Friday night. And as always, we thank you for coming and joining us on the Cherokee County Endzone podcast.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me. We're looking forward to it. And thanks for the support and everything you guys do for Cherokee County football.
So again, thank you to Coach Vavra for being with us. Always good to get his opinion on things and get some answers finally, Art. We got a chance to watch their scrimmage. First of all, big shout out to the Etowah News Network, I believe is what it's called. It's on YouTube as ENN. I don't know if they'll be doing all the games or just the home games, but their production level is fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed watching them call the game that they had on Friday, because they were the only county team that we had that I believe scrimmaged last Friday instead of 2 Fridays ago. So it was good to see them out in action. Again, they played a Hillgrove team that is, for our money, one of the kind of bubble 7A top 10 teams. They're kind of knocking on the door, similar to a Brookwood-esque type team. All that to say, though, is that Etowah in that scrimmage ended up, just barely behind the 8 ball due to special teams more than anything. But I thought they had some really impressive showings. Again, Walker John Hughes, however you say it, I apologize. I believe it's Walker John Hughes is the right way to say it. But he was a guy that had a touchdown grab there. Again, he caused all sorts of problems for teams, as he's done for the last 2 years. Zeke Douglas showed the escapability, ran with the ball just a hair. Kingston Caesar, that young man has put in work in the offseason. I even texted you and said, I don't know who this new Etowah running back is, but this guy is he is thickened up. And you said that's Kingston Caesar from last year. It's like we gotta ask Coach Vavra about that to confirm, because he looks like a totally new person. But all that to say, I think this is an Etowah team that looks to be greatly improved. Their offensive line showed some real growth. Their defense from the spring scrimmage to this scrimmage looked like a totally different group. So I was very impressed with what I saw Etowah put on tape, and excited to see what they do in this game.
Yeah, Coach Vavra mentioned he thought their pass protection was pretty good. And he said, there's some things that they need to work on. And we asked, the defense was really flying around. They looked a little bit bigger. They're still undersized, but as Coach Vavra said, a lot of what they do is by some of it's this is the way we want to do it. Others by necessity with personnel, and so we'll see how that fits in. I was also interesting development that Coach Vavra will be calling the defense this year, so we'll see if and how that impacts their performance this year from one season to another. So we will see. You mentioned Kingston Caesar. He looks like he's fitting into a role that will help Zeke out. So Zeke was a leading rusher a season ago with 747 yards. Also threw for 1,400 yards, almost 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns through the air. And I think that Hughes connection he has with Hughes will be impressive once again for this football team. I am concerned with their defense and how will they be able to be physical enough, because I think that's something that even Coach Vavra mentioned. Hey, we're still not as physical as we need to be in a rivalry game where you have a defensive line, where you have a budding start that you're going up against a defensive line. I think you really got to find a way to match his Jabril Baugh's physicality if you're Etowah. Coop, let's go over to we'll come back and give our score prediction after we talk with Coach Pearce, and you had a chance to talk to Coach Pearce earlier today as well. And let's go ahead and go to that interview to get his thoughts on the Woodstock Wolverines and their matchup in the Battle of Town Lake.
And joining us now on the Cherokee County Endzone podcast, it is the head coach of the Woodstock Wolverines, Coach Pearce. Coach, thank you for being back with us.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, Coach. Always look forward to it, especially with the Battle of Town Lake on tap. Before we get into this week's matchup, I want to go back just a touch, talk about your scrimmage a little bit. Can you walk us through some of the things you saw in your scrimmage that you felt good about, maybe some things you've been seeing improvement on in the last couple of weeks as you get ready for Etowah?
Yeah, no, we traveled to Sprayberry, and obviously, the years they've had, they're a good football team. So I think the positives were, we were able to run the football pretty consistently on offense, and then defensively, we really kind of bowed our back a few drives. We did give up a few explosives, but we had, I want to say, 2 or 3 kind of drives where they got into our red zone and we kind of bowed our back and either held them to a field goal attempt, or I think they actually missed 2 of them. So that was good to see. And then, just getting everybody out on the field. We got a lot of young guys in kind of second half and kind of messed around with a few things. And so, yeah, all of that was a positive. And the big thing is we got out of there healthy.
Yeah, Coach, last time we got to talk to you on our preseason show, there were a few names that you brought up, and I wanted to ask about maybe some guys around them. We'll start on the offensive side. You talked about Angel Parker kind of anchoring that offensive front for you guys. Is there anybody that you saw in the scrimmage over the last couple of weeks that stood out to you on that offensive line that maybe surprised you once you got into a game scenario?
Well, I don't know about so much surprise, but we are young. We actually start 4 sophomores up there. So 2 of them had played some last year as a freshman, the 2 Hickey twins, which, I think have a very bright future. But then Tucker Wilcox and Sean Madej, I think it was really good for them to get some true live reps in a scrimmage. And just to see the growth that they've made from our spring until then is huge. Very excited about those young guys up front. Again, I don't know that I would have walked into the season saying we'd be starting 4 sophomores, but I think these 4 dudes are ready to take the challenge.
And turn into the defensive side of the ball. We talked a lot about Jabril Baugh last time we had you on. Is there anybody around him on that defensive front that maybe kind of same question, maybe you're looking forward to seeing or you think will surprise fans or us in the media with their performance coming up?
So we moved Bryson Leverage from tight end to defensive end, kind of like a Jabril Baugh situation. The kid had played offense, but he's kind of maybe not the same stature as Bob, but kind of in that same long, rangy kind of defensive line guy. And then Caleb Vigna at linebacker for us. I'm really excited about. Last year he played outside linebacker for us. This year we've kind of moved him inside, and he's just a really good football player. He would probably be playing a lot of running back for us if he wasn't starting at inside linebacker. He's just a really good football player that has a knack for the football.
Awesome. And Coach, obviously the big question is this week you guys battle at Town Lake, hosting Etowah. Tell us about what it's going to take for your team to be successful on Friday night and maybe some expectations that you have for your team going into that one.
Yeah, no, I think early in the season, right, it's about who can play the cleanest. I think, last year's football game came down to the wire, went to overtime, and if you look at it, it's probably, 3 or 4 mistakes that we had on our end. If we correct, maybe the outcome's different. So I think early in the season, it's really about who can play the cleanest. I know that everybody's going to come out fired up, ready to play. It's a huge rivalry between the 2 schools. So I know that that's not going to be a factor, but really who can come out and execute what you've been trying to prepare for the week and who can play the cleanest football.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to be with us, Coach Pearce, and we look forward to seeing your team on Friday night.
Absolutely. And always, thank you for having me on.
And so again, thank you to Coach Pearce for being with us on the podcast. Art noticeably absent. We couldn't afford to pay him full time this year. We had to start paying him part time, and that has caused him to big time us. So it's you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But
I'm telling you.
But no, I appreciate Coach Pearce, getting some answers. The thing that stood out to me when talking to him was talking about that offensive line. 4 sophomores starting. You mentioned Etowah feeling a little undersized, maybe not as physical. That's going to be such a key in this game. That Woodstock offensive line, the youth and the Etowah defensive line that maybe a little smaller than we're used to, maybe trying to find their footing physicality-wise, trying to, trust that they can make those hits, especially when you're talking about a young offensive line. One of the best things you can do as a defensive end, defensive tackle is approach with your hands, have heavy hands, get some of those moves that you've been working on over the past few years that Etowah probably has done, especially with Coach Vavra now taking the head role over the defensive coordinator position. So that's kind of the key to me. Also, secondarily to that is it's going to be a battle of the quarterbacks, man. We've got 2 of the more experienced quarterbacks going at it in this one. And that'll be the big question because when Woodstock played Sprayberry in their scrimmage, one of the big things that I saw from what they were able to do with Woodstock is they were able to run the ball very effectively. And that was something Coach Pearce talked about. So this is going to be a good one, man. I'll let you do your score prediction first, or if you want to elaborate on Woodstock a little bit, because I don't really know how to feel about this game.
Well, we talked about the quarterback, Graham Burmeister. I almost thought I was calling Drew Burmeister. It's Freudian slip there. Threw for over 1,800 yards. We mentioned he's already committed. He got 19 touchdowns a year ago. He also led the team in rushing. And you talked about it. I think this is maybe two teams that probably want to take some of that rushing responsibility off of their quarterback, even though the quarterback can. And just because he can doesn't mean you always should. But he's very opportunistic. I think Zay Murphy's a guy, again, coming back, who led the team in rushing, might see an increased role. One of the things that you guys talked about is, I believe, moving Adrian Holly over from tight end to on the defensive line to give that some more depth, opposite of Jabril Ba. So I think that'll be an interesting development, at least defensively, to see if they can stymie the Etowah Eagles' rushing and passing attack and keep Zeke Douglas in check. I'll go ahead and say this. I think Ba's going to be the best defensive lineman in the county this year. It's no surprise. 8.5 sacks a year ago, 13 tackles for loss. He's just a wrecking force inside. He's going to command double teams. And if teams don't double team him, I think he's going to embarrass and punish the opposition this season. If Etowah can find a way to neutralize him, I really like their chances. I think this is a game that will not take Woodstock by surprise. I think they might have been surprised, shocked a little bit by the fight that Etowah had. Rivalry games are always crazy. This one's going back across it's back across the Woodstock. I think Etowah has a lot of confidence. They know that they can beat Woodstock. They proved it on the field. They return a lot of their production on offense, and then the quarterback and the running back quarterback, wide receiver, and found what seems to be an answer at running back. But I like Woodstock at home, Coop, and I think this game is going to be close. I think this has the potential to be a slugfest back and forth because of the offenses, both offensive, the ability for explosiveness from both offenses. I'm taking Woodstock at home by 3. Coach Pearce gets the first win of his head coaching career on Friday night, and I'll take all the heat and the smoke from the Etowah Eagles on social media and on the podcast.
Yeah, so the model agrees with you, has Woodstock by 5. Again, final disclaimer of the day. The margin's not what matters. It's the win probability.
Right.
And the win probability is at 60%. So that's on the lower side of any of the games that we've covered. So that's telling you that the model thinks Woodstock should win, but it's very real possibility, not a probability, but possibility that Etowah can win this game. And Woodstock gets a big help by having the home field advantage bump. Because if you put this on a neutral site, I mean, the margin goes way down and the confidence level goes way down on the model. So all that to say, it's a dandy of a game. Again, it's super important for both of these teams that are staring down the barrel of some tough regions that really need, with the PSR, to get this win, because both of them are boosting each other's opponent's winning percentage in a big way. So it'll help either team in their PSR. But I think the winner of this puts themselves in a really good spot to kind of start working towards a playoff spot. The loser is going to have a lot of ground to make up and is going to have to come up somewhere in the region schedule and probably upset a couple of teams that we wouldn't expect them to as we sit here in August.
Hard to believe, and maybe not, but we're talking about playoffs and future games you have to win. And we'll go back. If you've been living under a rock, we just want to let you know that the Georgia high schools has moved to the PSR, and that's forgive me, Coop. The acronym stands for, is it playoff system rating or something like that, or postseason rating? I think postseason rating formula to determine the 32 teams that will be in the playoffs. Now, if you win the region, you're guaranteed a home game or one of the top 16 seeds in the first round. So every game is important, and oddly enough, after you beat a team or play a team, you're kind of pulling for them to have success. So it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend becomes, that adage turns out. But anyway, we are looking forward to it here on the Cherokee County Endzone. We hope all of our teams make it to the Endzone early and often on Friday night. And we're looking forward to getting back at it and talking about these teams. Coop, do you want to go over, we got a little segment we're going to call Man versus a Machine. All right. You have really done a fantastic job of refining the predictor. We know that it has been pretty accurate, and I'll lay this disclaimer out. I know you will correct me on this. Pretty accurate. The later we get in the season, the more and more accurate it becomes, without a shadow of a doubt. But I'm going to use my human eye test, and then we're going to put me up against the machine. So we're going to do a little man versus a machine here. We're going to take some games, and we're going to, the way we're going to do this little contest. If you guys know it, we have these hypothetical Travis Scott burgers, since McDonald's will probably never bring that meal back. Then I think I'm down about 25 Travis Scott
15.
burgers. 15. Okay, who's counting?
Yeah, Walton doomed you to the 15th.
So I'm down, and I'm dare I double or nothing. But anyway, we just want to have a little friendly, healthy battle with some games that we don't necessarily talk about. So, Coop, you've done a great job with the Cooper Predictor, and not only are we able to run simulations on games, but you're also able to, what's the word I'm looking for here? You've got a breakdown, you've got ratings, rankings. We can do hypotheticals. And if you haven't been to cooperpredictor.com, you really need to go check this out. Will has done fantastic work creating a model that is pretty darn accurate. But I want to take on the machine. I want to take on the math and all of the statistical regression analyses that he's done. And so we picked 4 games. I guess if we take the Walton Roswell game, because we did.
Well, you ran your mouth about that one.
Yeah.
That was pretty sad.
But we've got 3 games that we wanted to take a look at that are outside of the typical Cherokee County listening area. And we selected them by a random number generator. Coop, you've got the most watchable games, or the top watchable games in the state. And I can't remember, does it give us, how many does it give us? All of them?
It does. Yeah, so it does all of them, but we limited it to the top 20, and we put 1 through 20 in a random number generator and said whichever one it was. So we got number 4, number 5, and number 11. Most watchable are the ones we'll be picking this week.
And 4, 5, and 11 would be the Douglas Astros versus the Carver Columbus Panthers. It will also be the Calhoun Yellow Jackets as they host the Jefferson Dragons. And then we have the Grayson Rams as they host
Sandy Creek.
Thank you very much. The Sandy Creek Patriots. So those are the games that we will be picking. And so, Coop, I'm going to go ahead and give mine. I like Carver Columbus over Douglas. I like Grayson to bounce back. I know that the whole, they had a immediate need for an offensive line coach this week. They put out on Twitter, I thought, or X. I thought that was very curious because they did not run the ball very well at all on last week in the Corky Kells. So we will see how they bounce back. I won't bore everyone with my analysis of these ball clubs, but I do think Sandy Creek is a team that will need to address some issues at running back as Amari Latimer has moved on at the amazing running back that he was for them a year ago. They do return their quarterback. They got plenty of pieces. It's a team that has got a ton of experience, but I think Grayson does bounce back. 7A school, I think they just too much pedigree there. I think it'll be a close game, but I like the Rams there. And then our final game, Jefferson versus Calhoun. I know that Jefferson is a proud program. They were, I believe, in the state title game last year as runners up. They do return Max Brown at linebacker. He's a brother of Sammy Brown, who was also at Jefferson, who's now at Clemson. They've got a return of running back, CJ Hayes. They got a really good running back, linebacker, and Eli Prim. But I like the experience of Trace Hawkins, Isaiah Knowles. I know they're a classification down as Calhoun. They lost a lot, but I tell you, the ability of Knowles' explosiveness as a running back and wide receiver, and a hard runner like Tony Reed, throwing Hudson Chadwick, again, another a change of pace back as well. I like Calhoun. It won't be by much, but I do like Calhoun to win that. And I think you're going to tell me where I'm wrong here.
Yeah, so we agree on Grayson. We give him a 74% win probability. We also agree on Carver because we give them a 53% win probability. So if we're wrong on that one, that'll be the one we think we're wrong on. Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned Jefferson and Calhoun, man. That's one we like Jefferson by a touchdown. We give them a 58% win probability. So not super confident. One of the things that's a little bit of a baited field for you, because watchability, which is calculated on the model, assumes a level of closeness that the model has. So it's already giving you, like, these are the games we're least confident about. So it's a little bit of a help for you, but you'll need it. So that's fine. But yeah, so Jefferson and Calhoun's our only disagreement. I take Jefferson, you take Calhoun. But other than that, I'm with you on the other two spots.
Fair enough. Well, that's our little contest, the man versus the machine. We'll keep track. Coop's already got a Google Doc that he will gloat about as he continues to win and rack up more Travis Scott burgers that I will have to leave him in my last will and testament.
I looked it up. You know how much a Travis Scott meal cost in 2020 when they came out?
Was it $6?
It was exactly $6, which I'm going to try not to
That's
be concerned that you knew that.
It's $90 if 6 times 15. If that's where we're going with this.
I'm actually getting ready to plug it in the inflation calculator because you don't get to pay me 2020 prices. So it'd be $7.70 now.
Okay, so I mean 96. Let's call it $93. I'm not doing the math.
It's $115.50.
Okay, well, who's counting?
Me.
Oh, I was multiplying by 12, not 15. I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh yeah, no. See, that's 12 was like before you lost the bracket challenge last year.
You can't win them all. I mean,
to the old model, by the way.
Right. Remember, but the model didn't win the pick'em, right? The AJC pick'em. You're talking to a guy who, right? Exactly. So I'm still up on the model when it comes to overall score.
That was the dig we needed in order to go back and reiterate the model. So nobody has faced this version yet.
So here we go. Me and my cockiness and you and your confidence, and we'll get there. Coop, one thing we haven't done, I know we're getting late in the program here. We haven't talked about our Cherokee County power rankings,
so
opinions.
A ranking is when you put them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
A rating is a mathematical number. So we do not do ratings, although I do.
Right.
But we do rankings. So we're going to rank them in order. It does not say that we think there's a huge gap between 2 and 3 if there is one. It's just saying we think that if these teams played, number 5 would beat number 6 and so on and so forth.
All right. I'm going to start. This is going to break my heart. I've got Cherokee at number 6 in my rating this week.
Yes, we got Etowah at number 6 in our, and mine's Cooper predictor based. So number 6 is Etowah for us.
All right. I've got Etowah at number 5.
Yeah, we've got Cherokee at number 5.
Okay, so we're kind of right there. I have at number 4, I have the River Ridge Knights.
Yeah, we got Woodstock at number 4.
You're shaking your head.
I'm going to let the fans tell you what's wrong with that. But we got Woodstock at number 4.
All right, we'll see. We shall see. I've got Woodstock at number 3.
Yeah, we got Creekview at number 3.
Whoa. Did somebody from River Ridge like put a hit out on you, or is that
No, it's one of those things where when I decided that I was going to do this whole modeling thing and take it public so everybody could see it, is that I was going to stand by it. And there are going to be times that I said, I disagree with it, but this is what the math says. And it's more accurate than I could ever hope to be.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not one of those times.
Okay. All right. Well, at number 2,
they went 7-3 last year.
I do know that. I still got them at number 4. All right. They went 7-3 and missed the playoffs because they lost a game they shouldn't have lost.
Fair enough. They also won a game nobody thought they could win.
So it all evens out in the wash. At number 2, we'll come back and talk about River Ridge. I know Coach Collins we're giving him plenty of bulletin board material right now, so we'll definitely come back and talk about them. I've got the Creekview Grizzlies at number 2.
Yeah, I got River Ridge at number 2. I do think Creekview has a ton of upside personally, but just statistics based. They were a 5-5 team last year. Got a really bad draw. I mean, the entire region did because it was Region 1. But it's just right now the math can't move them above River Ridge. It's about a 6-point difference.
And at number 1, even though they did suffer a county loss last year by the River Ridge Hitmen, the Sequoia Chiefs, number 1. Do we need to say anything else?
Yeah, until you show us that you're not. I mean, again, I feel like we do this. We have learned our lesson because for the last 3 years we have flirted around with putting somebody else number 1, and Coach Teeter and the staff over there just continue to prove that we don't know what we're talking about, and we should just shut up and let them prove it. So I'm with you. The math also agrees.
Well, we will have teams that will be proving things to us this week, and we're looking forward to covering that. Coop, great! It's finally here. And I know last week we got a little bit of teaser with 2 games, and that was it was kind of wham because of the schedule between the Falcons and World Cup and all of whatever else was going on now at the Benz. But man, the season gets kicked off in earnest this week, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to be, calling 2 games this week. So I've had my work cut out for me to get that prepared and get prepared for the podcast. Glad to be back in the saddle with you, my friend, and I'm looking forward to a competition. Look, I might get my butt kicked by this machine, but I'm going to go down swinging. That's for sure.
Yeah, it should be fun. We got the Cooper Predictor's got 1,100 games that it's predicted across 6 states that start this Friday. So it's going to be a test for you and I, because I get the sense there's going to be some state that we just bomb in. Hopefully not, but that's math. Statistically, it's probably going to happen somewhere. So we just hope it's not in Georgia.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we appreciate you joining us on the Cherokee County Endzone podcast. We hope these teams make it to the red zone and in the end zone on Friday night. We'll be back here next week to discuss the results. We'll have a couple of more coach interviews and preview next week's games. We hope you get out and enjoy. We'll have articles that are coming out probably around Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon sometime. We'll have our previews from that we publish pregame previews, and more of the same, more fun, more shenanigans. We look forward to having you, and maybe we'll even get Dave Garner on here at some point. He's probably busy eating he had his own personal pizza eating contest earlier tonight, so he couldn't make it. But Dave, there's your dig. You had to go a whole hour and almost 10 minutes in, but we got you, buddy. Coop, great job as always. Look forward to catching up with you a little bit later on, and we'll see you in the end zone.